Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to extend my warm welcome to all the participants joining us from various corners of the globe. Today, on the International Day of Biological Diversity, FNF South Asia Regional Office, along with FNF Berlin FNF South Asia Regional Office, along with FNF Berlin, Brandenburg, and Mecklenburg-Vorpommern Office, and Center for Public Policy Research based in South India, is organizing a relevant and important panel discussion titled Exploring Ecological Realities for Conservation in the Bay of Bengal Region. My name is Tenzin Belger, a Program and Communication Officer at FNF South Asia. Bay of Bengal is a crucial part of Indian Ocean, which supports diverse ecosystem and human communities across India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, and Sri Lanka. It is home to iconic species and plays a vital role in global environmental processes. However, challenges like habitat loss and climate change threaten its ecological balance. So what day is the best than today on the International Day of Biological Diversity that we bring together experts from different backgrounds to discuss these critical issues and explore successful conservation model and highlight the importance of educating youth to nurture the environmental responsibility. I once again extend my gratitude to all the people who have joined us from different parts of the globe. On the side note, I would like to inform you that this event is part of our FNF South Asia Regional Office webinar series, which has commenced in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. And today's webinar marked the 53rd episode of our series. So those of you who are interested in watching our previous episodes, please visit us on Facebook and YouTube channel. For more details, please follow us on Instagram. So before we proceed to the panel discussion, we have few distinguished individuals who will share their remarks. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Thanuraj on the stage and read out his brief bio. Dr. Thanuraj is the founder chairman of the Center for Public Policy Research, who we are partnering with for this webinar. CPPR is a non-profit independent public policy think tank based in Kochi, South India. Dr. Thanuraj is a policy research and commentator. His expertise are in the subject of urbanization, urban mobility and infrastructure, education, retail, health, livelihood, law, public expenditure, defense and security, geopolitics, and election analysis. He has collaborated with state, national, and international governments, organizations, and institutions on key research studies and policy recommendation. He is also a noted speaker and a thought leader. He writes extensively for several leading media publications and contributes his expertise as a policy expert on several news channels. Currently, he's also the president of the Association of Public Policy Education in India, APPE. Dr. Thanu, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Tenzin, for your kind words. Good day to all of you, those who are joining from India and abroad, different parts of the world, and a warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, distinguished guests, and dedicated participants. It's an honor to address you all at this webinar. I extend my sincere gratitude to FNF for facilitating this important conversation on the International Day for Biological Diversity. This gathering marks a pivotal moment as we come together to discuss, deliberate, and devise strategies to safeguard one of the most ecologically significant and biodiverse regions in our planet. The Bay of Bengal, embraced by the nations of India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, and Sri Lanka, is not just a geographical entity, but a lifeline for millions. It plays a critical role in maintaining global ecological balance, contributing to essential environmental processes that influence climate patterns worldwide. Its marine ecosystems are vital for carbon and nitrogen cycling, significantly impacting our planet's health. South Asia, surrounding this magnificent bay, is recognized as a global diversity hotspot and is home to many endangered and vulnerable species such as dugongs and sea turtles. The region boasts some of the world's critical marine habitats, including 12% of the world's mangroves, 8% of coral reefs, and vast expanses of seagrasses. The coastal marine habitats of the Bay of Bengal are crucial for the food security of coastal communities and provide natural defenses that reduce damage to coastal areas from waves and wind. They are of considerable social and economic importance, with activities such as fishing, shrimp farming, tourism, and shipping contributing significantly to food security, employment, and national economies. Beyond marine life resources, the Bay of Bengal is a repository of vast deposits of hydrocarbon resources and mineral wealth. However, the Bay of Bengal faces unprecedented challenges: habitat loss, altered land use, population growth, excessive resource exploitation, salinity and sea level rise, and climate change that threaten not only biodiversity, but also the livelihoods of coastal communities. The rate of deterioration has been exacerbated by various actions, including operational discharge from small and medium feeder ships, oil spills, industrial waste, pollution, and the accumulation of non-biodegradable plastic matter. It is striking to note that policymakers and the businesses, while seeking to maximize profits from the extraction of blue wealth, often overlook the ecological dangers to these commons. While initiatives like Bay of Bengal Large Marine Ecosystem Project exemplify regional cooperation, there is an urgent need for intensified efforts and immediate action to address this ecological crisis. Given this context, our aim today is to foster a deeper understanding of the ecological realities we face and to inspire actionable strategies that can lead to sustainable conservation efforts. With the vast experience of the panelists and our esteemed participation in this webinar, I'm confident that the insights, experiences, and innovative ideas shared here will be invaluable, in fact, as we chart out a course towards a more resilient and ecologically balanced Bay of Bengal. Thank you all for joining us. I look forward to a productive and enlightening discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tanner. Thank you for sharing these important points. I'm sure the panelists will definitely cover those points during their discussions, the challenges and all. So next, I have a message from Honorable Mr. Mohanad Al-Halak. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend this meeting due to his prior engagements, but he has sent a message for us. So before I read his message, for those of you who doesn't know Mr. Al-Halak, I would like to read his short bio. Mr. Al-Halak is an Iraqi-born member of German Bundestag, the German parliament. He has been serving on the Parliamentarian Committee on the Environment, Nature Conservation, Nuclear Safety, and Consumer Protection. He is also a member of Parliamentary Advisory Board on Sustainable Development. Now I would like to read his message. Dear Dr. Thanuraj, dear Dr. Klein, esteemed speakers and panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to have been given the opportunity to address you via these lines on this important day, the International Day of Biological Diversity. I would have liked very much to join you in this webinar in person, but I'm currently traveling back to Germany, having participated in the World Water Forum on Bali. There as well, the fundamental challenge of our time has been ubiquitous: climate change. The effects of global climate change on biodiversity are being felt by all over the world. The sheer scale of these challenges facing us is only rivaled by the scale of the required solutions. It is absolutely clear that those solutions can only be obtained through cooperation on all levels: local, national, regional, international, and global. The effects of the declining biodiversity do not care about national borders. But while the negative effects do not stop at national borders, neither do benefits and potential application of biological diversity. Eons of evolution have led to a myriad of biological processes, the implications of which we are only beginning to explore, let alone understand. These ranges from metabolizing pollutant to the reduction of fungicides and pesticides in agriculture to future applications we cannot even begin to fathom yet. And yet, biodiversity is destroyed faster than we can learn from it. With every species that is lost, either in specific habitats or even to extinction, we lose potential knowledge. And this means that we are in the process of dramatically narrowing the number of future solutions available to us. This must be a wake-up call for all of us, because even though cooperation is the process that will lead to the solution, knowledge is the foundation on which this process rests. As a climate politician from Germany, I am often asked by the voters, what can we do anyway? What can I do? A single person won't change a thing. I'm telling you, this is not true. It takes cooperation and sharing of knowledge to bring out the best in each and every one of us. Only together with knowledge does cooperation becomes collaboration towards a sustainable and human common future. It is events such as this webinar today that keep the flame of collaboration and shared knowledge alive. And for this, I would like to express my profound gratitude to all the participants, panelists, and Center for Public Policy Research and Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom. Thank you very much. So this is the message from Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Al-Halak. Thank you for your message. Mr. Al-Halak, despite your busy schedule, it is indeed true that in your lines, you have said that only together with knowledge does cooperation becomes collaboration. So with this webinar, I'm looking forward for more point of discussion, which will allow us to cooperate more and then convert it into collaboration. So now I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Benno Boer. I would like to read out his bio. Dr. Benno Boer is an experienced project manager with over 30 years of experience in global environmental science. With a career spanning Europe, the Arab region, Africa, and Asia, Dr. Boer currently serves as a UNESCO Natural Science Specialist in New Delhi, focusing on Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, the Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. His work primarily revolves around climate change, ecosystem conservation, blue carbon systems, and promoting sustainable human living through adaptation and mitigation efforts. Dr. Boer has made significant contributions through numerous scientific publications, has authored books, including the acclaimed 6-volume Sabka Ecosystems of the World series. He has also played a pivotal role in producing impactful films, such as well as exhibitions on the mangrove ecosystems of the world, climate science literacy, and women in science in India. His dedication to meaningful change is evident through his initiation and co-editing of UNESCO-backed series on water, energy, food security nexus in Asia and the Pacific, and blue carbon ecosystems of sustainable development at Sprinkle Nature, which is a leading academic publishing company. Dr. Boer, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tenzin. And there were a number of participants that kindly asked you to increase your volume a little bit. It was not very easy to hear you. Dear Dr. Carsten Klein, head of the Regional Office South Asia of the Friedrich Naumann Stiftung, internationally known as the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. Dear Mr. Tenzin Palyo, the moderator of this event. Ladies and gentlemen, first let me convey my thanks on behalf of UNESCO to the organizers for inviting a keynote address of UNESCO on this webinar, exploring ecological realities for conservation in the Bay of Bengal. It's an honor to receive this invitation, since it is difficult to address the multitude of factors and the diversity of countries in this geographical area. I will therefore reduce the keynote address to 3 main messages. The first message is on the triple planetary crisis and credible population forecasts. The term triple planetary crisis, we will hear this term more often in the future, not only because we are not achieving the Sustainable Development Goals linked to biodiversity loss, climate change, and pollution, but because we can expect even more unbridled exploitation of the natural resources and a significant increase in human population in the coastal areas of the Bay of Bengal. All of us including people who will be born in the future. We need clean air, we need safe drinking water, energy, shelter, and enough food. So we must consider that the triple planetary crisis is already a reality now, and via population increase, this crisis is likely to become an even bigger crisis. It will bring even more biodiversity loss, habitat fragmentation, and increased pressure on coastal and marine fisheries. Moreover, sea level rise will cause the inhabitable coastline to retreat inland, reducing space for human settlements and reducing space for agriculture. And in addition to this, saltwater intrusion will cause the desalination of arable land. The population of Bangladesh, for example, is expected to grow to a peak number of 193 million by 2055. That will be the peak. Right now, it stands at almost 175 million. That means roughly 18 million more people will be there, and they need and consume all the resources that we all need and consume. India, with a 7,000 kilometer long coastline, has a total population that exceeded 1.4 billion, with some megacities located in the coastal zone. The population of India is expected, according to the United Nations UNDSA, to grow to 1.65 billion with a peak in 2060. This means India alone is likely to grow by 250 million more people in the next 35 years. That is more than the combined total population of Australia, Canada, Russia, and Saudi Arabia as it stands in 2024 that will be added to the population in India. My second message is on what UNESCO can deliver on ecological conservation. The Bay of Bengal is the largest bay in the world, and it contains the largest standalone mangrove forest globally, the Sundarbans, which of course extends from India into Bangladesh. It also contains the area where the Ganga and Brahmaputra rivers discharge their waters in the biggest delta on the planet. UNESCO is the host agency of 3 of the important United Nations designated conservation sites, including biosphere reserves, World Natural Heritage Sites, and global geoparks. Even though there is good progress with coastal UNESCO designated sites in the Bay of Bengal, with some coastal sites in Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, and serious efforts that have been going on in Myanmar, there is room to identify, establish, and manage many more coastal biosphere reserves with science-based management plans that aim to apply, test, and demonstrate best practices for human living in harmony with nature. Right now, arguably, we are not living in harmony with nature, so we need to relearn that. Moreover, of course, UNESCO, as the United Nations specialized agency with education and science in its mandate and name, with its partners, can deliver far-reaching impact via schools, universities, and communities to assist people to attain knowledge on climate resilience and important skills on water resources management, biodiversity conservation, the application of clean energy, community cleanups, and promoting green jobs and entrepreneurship. And I do actually believe that green jobs and green entrepreneurship is the way into the future for all of us. My third message is that we need to improve our own mental model and mindsets. And this is very important and it's not so much talked about. And of course, not everybody likes to hear what I'm saying now, but I'm actually quite convinced about that. It is not good enough to have a multitude of expensive and carbon-intensive international conferences going on year after year without producing sufficient local impact globally. Therefore, it is, in my opinion, highly advisable to try and reach out to all schools in the world and encourage them to apply good environmental practices on the schoolyard, in the buildings, and improve their own environmentally friendly behavior. All school students should become environmental stewards. This is important. It can be done, and it needs to be done very soon if we wish to revert from ecosystem destruction to ecosystem conservation and restoration. We should cherish our human life support system, which is our planet, with air to breathe, water to drink, and food to eat. Not only the children and teachers should be involved, but all members of communities. Decision makers in governmental institutions globally are invited to rethink. Is it advisable that people with a background in political science, law, or journalism are in charge of environmental authorities? Of course, there are exceptions. Some of them might be very good. But if I have toothache, I go to a professional dentist. I don't go to somebody who never studied dentistry. Do we not urgently need key staff in key ministries that have a documented and certified professional background on the subject that they address? I am thinking about authorities dealing with issues related to the atmosphere, the biosphere, the cryosphere, the hydrosphere, and the lithosphere. Would it not be advisable for political decision makers to have a professional background related to, for example, agriculture, biology, earth science, ecology, fisheries, forestry, nature conservation, water management, rather than law and business and politics? I am saying this because I do believe that if high-ranking decision makers would have a certified professional background, they would better understand how serious the triple planetary crisis has become. This would automatically translate into more and better climate and ocean literacies that would then allow for seriously relocating more attention to where attention is needed and more budget where budget is needed. Budget for environmental management, budget for science, budget for education is not enough, and budget is wasted on a lot of questionable other things. Human survivability should be on top of our priorities globally, not only in the Bay of Bengal, but everywhere. Therefore, sustainability must be the new normal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Benno. My colleagues here are clapping for you. And those of you who are participating from your own places, I'm sure all the points that Dr. Benno has said, it's not just for today's discussion, but you go back to your communities, to your countries, and make a room for change for the future and for a sustainable future. So next, without further ado, I would like to invite Jishnu Ravindran, who will be the moderator of today's session. And I hope my audio is better now. Let me read Mr. Jishnu's profile. Jishnu holds a degree in zoology and biotechnology. He has done research focused on plant-based protein production from algae byproducts and algae's potential as a biofuel. He has also worked as a microbiologist in pharmaceutical industry. Jishnu is also an active conservationist, having volunteered with organizations such as World Wildlife Fund, Wildlife SOS, and Mangrove Society of India. He has contributed to projects such as tiger population census. Jishnu, I will hand over the moderation to you. All the best.
Thank you, Tenzin. Hi, everyone. A very good afternoon from India. And I would like to take this moment to thank FNF to giving us the opportunity to talk on very significant and important issue that is prevailing since more than 2 decades now in the Bay of Bengal region. Thank you, Tenzin. Thank you, Dr. Klein. I would also like to thank Dr. Dhanaraj and Dr. Boyer to pointing out the key issues and giving a brief of what are the potential issues that is being pertained in the Bay of Bengal region. And very well said by Dr. Boy that it is time that we start talking and then we start addressing the leadership gaps in order to address the human survival issues rather than and budgeting accordingly in the international community. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed panelists, starting with Rear Admiral ASM A. Awal. He was the former ambassador and assistant to Chief of Staff. So just a brief about Admiral Awal. His credits of leadership goes to for 36 years, and he has worked in the Bangladesh Navy, and also he has worked with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bangladesh. And upon his promotion to the rank of Rear Admiral, he served as Assistant Chief of Naval Staff Operations and Assistant Chief of Naval Staff Personnel. So it's our pleasure to host you, Rear Admiral ASM A. Awal. Welcome, sir. Next, I would like to introduce Professor Sevandi Jaikodi. Professor Sevandi Jaikodi is a chair professor in Department of Aquaculture and Fisheries at Wayamba University of Sri Lanka. She holds a degree in zoology from University of Kilnia and postgraduate diploma in wildlife management and conservation from the Wildlife Institute of India, and a PhD in zoology from University of Aberdeen, UK. She has been an advocate of mangrove conservation. She is a national mangrove expert she is the chairperson of the National Mangrove Expert Committee and a member of Commonwealth Blue Carbon Initiative. She has also worked with the Bay of Bengal Large Marine Ecosystem Conservation Project. Her research interests include coastal ecosystem management, policy, and impacts of human disturbances on the ecosystem and its function. Welcome, Dr. Jaikodi. I would like to introduce our third panelist, Ms. Thanda Sogi. She is the founder of Myanmar Ocean Project, and she works in the conservation with a mission to restore and protect the health of Myanmar's ocean. After countless encounters with marine entanglements of ghost nets and witnessing the destruction in the ghost gear on the marine ecosystem, she finally decided to work on understanding and reduce the impact of abandoned and lost, otherwise discarded fishing gears, which is one of the challenging issues in the Bay of Bengal region. And she has been continuously engaged in local surveys, grassroots level engagement, cleanup programs, engaging with the fishing community in the Make Archipelago. Welcome, ma'am. I would like to introduce our third panelist, Ms. Akansha Tiwari, who is a wildlife filmmaker and a conservationist from India. She works on stories that highlight local voices and initiatives, and her recent projects have documented marine conservation, mental health, COVID pandemic, big cats facing habitat encroachments, and the issues in the fishing industry. As part of the impact campaigns of these projects, she has been working with different stakeholders to bring awareness and policy change towards the issue via her films and documentaries. She's currently looking into the solutions to the problems of marine debris, producing projects that promote inclusive storytelling. So, welcome Akansha to the panel. With the introduction, I feel I don't have to reiterate what our welcome note speaker, Dr. Dhanuraj, and what Dr. Boyer had already explained about how and why the Bay of Bengal is crucial and what are the challenges that is being faced. Just to take few points from their welcome remark, could be Bay of Bengal being the largest bay in the world, is bookended by India on the western side, Thailand on the east, and with Bangladesh and Myanmar and Sri Lanka with its major littoral states. And it plays an important role in maintaining the delicate global ecological balance, offering livelihood to coastal populace of one of the highly populated countries in the world. I think India is the most populated country in the world now, and also a growing population, as rightly Dr. Boyd mentioned. Bangladesh is also a growing population that utilizes and exploits a lot of resources, and there are other countries that encircle the Bay of Bengal, which they use and prevail on the resources that is provided by the Bay of Bengal region. Here we definitely face definitely face a threat due to climate change, due to national and international tensions that is happening in the surrounding region, and also the coastal marine habitat of Bay of Bengal region is an important source of food and security for coastal communities, which sometimes get unnoticed in the larger perspective when we talk about international issues or trade or economy. What we really miss out is how the coastal community is getting affected, or what are the real stakeholders, the main stakeholders of the Bay of Bengal region, how are their issues being addressed. These are certain gaps that I identified, and I would like to draw the webinar in this direction. So my first question, while channeling, we will be looking into the current status and realities of the region. So my first question is to Ms. Thanda and Ms. Akansha. Could you shed light on some of the current activities that are being done in a local level, and how impactful they are in the conservation of marine ecosystem? So over to you, Ms. Thanda.
Sorry,
Hello.
I think I was on mute. Was your question about the work we are currently doing now and the impact?
No, I wanted to just shed light on what are the current activities that is being done, and how impactful are they in the conservation of marine ecosystem.
I think Myanmar is, in general, even before COVID and the current political situation, we've been slightly behind other countries in terms of capabilities, in terms of marine conservation management, and conservation efforts. So it's been a very slow road, and obviously since COVID and what is happening currently, I think it's a big challenging effort for all the parties involved, the CSOs, the universities, and everybody else who are trying to do any kind of research. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for highlighting that issue that, that is something to be overlooked on, why Myanmar being an important stakeholder is, a few paces behind than its neighbors. That's something totally important topic to be deliberated upon. Ms. Akansha, I would like to point the mic towards you to know what are the activities being done in India.
So there are activities going on, but it's not so much in the public domain because of the nature of the geography, as we know, because there are security concerns, there are organizational and funding privacy but I have seen a recent change, that there are more international collaborations, there are inclusive meetings with different stakeholders like this one, and in general that there are more conversations that are being held. But no projects as such come to mind, because they are being done at like a smaller level and it's not discussed as publicly.
So basically, there is engagement in the public, but there are no actionables that is being taken. So good to know that. I mean, that's also another gap. So assessing the realities, we understand that there are policies being done, but nothing much on the front side, so that people can assess and know what is actually really happening in the area. So do you feel the area is being neglected by the international community with respect to the engagement?
No, in fact, I think, at least personally, since when I have started working in this sector, there are more international conversations, there are more collaborative conversations as that. And when I talk about projects not being there, what I mean is the conversation has just started. They are still in their initial research phase, because all of us have realized how urgent these issues are very recently, or at least they've understood the impact and the urgency and how much it can make a difference to economics and policies and politics very recently. So it is there, but it's in its nascent and initial stage, according to me.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Akansha. Thank you, thank you for highlighting that there is immense potential, but there are still existing gaps. Thank you for addressing that issue. I would like to ask Professor Jayakodi, that given that her expertise in mangroves, and mangroves is one of the critical areas in Bay of Bengal region that is facing threats due to increased salinity, the temperature issues due to climate change. So, Ms. Jayakodi, my question to you is, given your expertise with mangroves, how critical are these ecosystems for the health of the Bay of Bengal region? And what are the major threats mangroves in Bay of Bengal region are facing?
Thank you, Jishnu. Hope I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Lovely. So, yes, you highlighted the word mangroves. Yes, mangroves are very close to me, but when I'm speaking about Bay of Bengal, I would like to not just speak about mangroves, but I would like to talk about all blue carbon ecosystems, because when it comes to Bay of Bengal, mangroves, seagrasses, and salt marshes, and along with that, these three ecosystems, there are many other ecosystems which I really don't want to list here, but they are so important. Why are they important? Because it's not just that they maintain the ecological balance of the region, not just because they provide marine life, not just because they provide the habitat for diverse species. It's also because they are the lifeline to millions of people in Bay of Bengal. And at the same time, there are also hidden aspects that we know least of. For an example, things like nutrient cycling and the oxygen that they produce. So therefore, all these ecosystems in Bay of Bengal are our natural capital as well as our lifeline. But having said that, I'm now moving on to the second part of your question, where you just asked what are the threats. Before we go into the threats, we also need to understand the importance of Indian Ocean as it is. For an example, as you mentioned the word mangroves. If I take mangroves, 50% of global mangroves are in the Indian Ocean. And if you take Bay of Bengal separately from the Indian Ocean, that being a secluded area is home to one of the most important mangrove ecosystems, Sundarbans, as well as so many continuous and large-scale mangrove ecosystems. So having known all these things, we must also understand that because this natural capital has been known for a long time, that it has also been used for a long time. And this use has turned into an abuse. And as a result, there are multiple threats. I really don't want to talk about all the threats because the very first speaker used the right word. He mentioned about the triple planetary crisis, that itself is what we are facing at the moment. But I found to go back to the bite size and talk about it. We are talking about excessive pollution because of the agricultural runoffs. And then there's the industrial waste that is becoming a problem at the moment, habitat destruction because of the coastal development, and of course the climate change. And coupled with that, the rise in sea levels, which will be an immense threat for us. But in recent years, we are also seeing the invasive species becoming a problem. And I must also tell you that we are also seeing some new emerging threats. That's in relation to not conservation, but restoration, the bad restoration of our coastal ecosystems, just only focusing carbon. And also we should not forget that there's an increasing number of marine disasters happening in the region. And as a result, overall, we are also seeing more and more anoxic zones. Areas without oxygen is expanding in Indian Ocean. That's just a small summary, Jishnu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was really insightful, and some of the information go beyond the literature that is available on the web itself. So thank you for that insight. Definitely, these areas are some of the areas that you told, especially about the invasive species that you have noticed the numbers are increasing. That is something very, I guess, might have happened in the last few years, maybe in the last decade. But obviously, given that the majority of mangroves and the ecosystem is being under threat due to pollution that is increasing, is really something that we need to look up. So coming back to continuing the discussion on the threats and challenges, how Jayakodi ma'am has covered, I would like to draw the attention to Rear Admiral Awal. Sir, as Jayakodi ma'am rightly mentioned, there are a lot of threats that is being imposed and that is oncoming on the Bay of Bengal region with respect to the ecosystem and the flora and fauna, marine flora and fauna that is existing in the Bay of Bengal region. So I just wanted to know how the international geopolitical dynamics can influence the efforts in the conservation of Bay of Bengal region. Now, we are very aware that there are a lot of threats from multi-angles. And how can international community come together for these conservation efforts? Just highlighting the major stakeholders like India, Bangladesh, Thailand, all the countries that encircle the region. Over to you, Admiral.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I think our keynote speaker and our two panelists, they have put the subject on a right path for me to address. Now, what the keynote speaker emphasized is that the crisis, planetary crisis. Planet is in crisis. SDG not being met, and we continue to remain as reckless we are with the nature, with our sea areas, with our marine ecosystem. So the future is green. He has rightly, Now, what is the way forward? What is the strategy to come out is the conservation. To conserve this, the threat to the ecosystem and threat to the biodiversity and all, you have to conserve. You have to nurture the marine ecosystem. So if you consider the Bay of Bengal, it's the largest bay. Geopolitics, it had been there for time immemorial. Is there, it's basically using the geography for furthering your international relations. That's the basic idea of geopolitics. What has gone wrong, I think now with our present situation, is that in the international relations, the use of force or threat or all this thing, which would have been the no option or the last option, that's unfortunately becoming an option coming soon, wrecking the world peace and tranquility. Now, Bay of Bengal is a part of the Indian Ocean, and which is again part of the bigger Indo-Pacific. Given that context, Bay of Bengal has two facets, so to say. One is it is a self-sustaining and a socio-economic entity. That has been the tradition throughout, that this region was very connected, well connected in terms of 3C, the commerce, the your connectivity, various means of connection, and cultural exchange. These 3C had been putting us together. But thereafter, many things has happened, and about Bay of Bengal as an entity was not in focus, say, through the late 90s and early 21st century. It was not in the focus, mostly known for the cyclones and disaster and all this thing. But later on, through the 90s and the early 21st century, with the rise of the regional powers like China and India, now these became a totally different scenario. Even the Indian Ocean, at times, it was a forgotten entity. It is the middle bay. It is at the middle of the earth. But that didn't have that focus. But after the collapse of the Soviet Union, through the 90s, and the rise of the regional powers like India and China, competition started. And then now come to present state. It is manifested through the, geopolitical rivalry between USA and China, and with that joining hands the regional countries at various stages. So one facet is a socio-economic aspect, which goes for connectivity, commerce, culture, and all this thing, and which is a matter of geoeconomics for Bay of Bengal. And if you go that, then there you can talk about the conservation, you can talk about the climate change, how to make the Bay of Bengal region, more sustainable ecologically. But when it comes to the geopolitical, parley, then it becomes a different thing. The manifestation becomes the Indo-Pacific strategy led by USA and its allies and partners. And then the China has this Belt and Road Initiative. Now, through these two manifestations, these manifestations, these strategies have specific security objectives. So that creates a division. And for the smaller countries in the Bay of Bengal, you have identified what are the Bay of Bengal littorals. They are caught in between this rivalry. So this is the scenario geopolitically, and we have a geoeconomics and the socio-economic side on the other side. Now, for conservation, you need the collaboration among the Bay of Bengal littorals. But what has happened now, when you want to collaborate, the geopolitical dynamics that you have mentioned, now that is putting us in a very different condition, because Bay of Bengal is a joining point between the wider Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. To be specific, the Western Pacific Ocean, and to be specific, the very contested South China Sea, and on this side is the Indian Ocean. Thus, it is sort of battleground for the geopolitical rivalry. And that brings the forces, that brings the animosities and all this, and which is completely different from the thing we are talking about, the conservation. Now, if we concentrate on the marine conservation, now what is it? It is the it's also known as the ocean conservation. So it is the protection and preservation of ecosystem, marine ecosystem in the ocean and seas through planned management in order to prevent over-exploitation of the resources that we have in the Bay of Bengal. So this is our objectives in terms of conservation. Vis-a-vis, if you go to the geopolitics, that's a very disturbing one. It's a completely irreconcilable constituencies are there. So if in the context of the Bay of Bengal, if we are in a collaborative mode amongst us, then we can talk about what is called the Bay of Bengal large maritime ecosystem, which is very 6 million square kilometer of area comprising 8 countries. It needs the protection, and this ecosystem is very vital for our survival. So that is the one. But if the geopolitical rivalry is there and the players are divided, countries are divided, and that line, then what happens? The collaboration, which is readily, it can be done, like non-traditional threats, your gun running, overfishing, the EU, then various other transnational crimes. With that, the climate change has been inducted in the human security aspects. So all these things, you need the collaboration. For collaboration, you need to be together. That togetherness is disturbed by the geopolitical dynamics in that way. So in the geopolitical complexity, these conservation efforts, if not stopped, but its functioning becomes difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Awal, for highlighting some of the main issues and giving a brief, a tear down from the historical and the geopolitical area, and also subtly pointing out that political interferences overshadow the conservation and the humanitarian need in the region. Thank you for subtly highlighting that. That was really insightful. Moving on from the overview, I think we have captured the key areas where we wanted to focus and where we wanted to drive our webinar. So thank you, panelists, for highlighting some of the key areas which are really important and should be taken care of by the governing countries and leadership. So continuing our discussion, I would like to ask a question to Professor Jayakody. Given your background and your research in the field of marine conservation, I would like to ask you a question that given the scientific perspective, can you discuss some of the successful conservation initiatives or policies in the Bay of Bengal region, and how these might have impacted the local ecosystem? Over to you, Ms. Jack, Dr. Jayakody.
Thank you, Jishnu. I think in taking that question, I must say that within the Bay of Bengal, the countries that have been working together have taken several initiatives, and that has been helping. Now, if I look at the marine protected areas in Bay of Bengal, they are increasing. There's more and more marine protected areas that are being declared, and that there's more and more finances that are, and also resources that are being invested in order to protect them, but also to make sure that the right economic uses of these ecosystems are taken. So that's something that I see as a positive change. And at the same time, I'm also seeing the entire Bay of Bengal's focus now on reforestation and restoration of the degraded ecosystems. And we are at the moment sort of like, I wouldn't even hesitate to say that we are setting some leading examples of how science-based, evidence-based restoration could be done. Now, that's another positive thing I think we can talk about. Coming to fisheries management, we need to understand the nuances of Bay of Bengal, because unlike other areas, we are talking about an area where you have large number of artisanal fishers and large number of fishers that are below poverty line, depending on fisheries. And despite these challenges, I'm also seeing some amount of sustainable fisheries management getting in. Fisheries management becoming more ecologically driven. So ecosystem approach to fisheries management, which was a concept introduced by the Bay of Bengal Boblemy project, has been rooted here in Bay of Bengal at the moment. So I think it's so important that it rolls out. More and more stakeholders are convinced about the importance of going forward with that. And I think that's another positive change that I can talk about. And if I take the Bay of Bengal countries, I can also see at least a positive change towards getting rid of single-use plastic. We can see more and more
Hello, Ms. Jayakuri, I think we are glitching. Hello. I think there has been some technical issue with respect to Ms. Jayakuri. So definitely, I think we'll engage her when she joins back. So I would like to draw the attention. I mean, we'll discuss definitely what are the positive side, as Dr. Jayakuri mentioned clearly that we could hear from before she left. She was mentioning about a positive note on single-use plastic that has been reduced, and it is kind of a global effort that we are doing. Even in India, we have a lot of initiatives to cut down single-use plastic. So good to all of us that we are doing that. So coming back to the conversation, I would like to ask Ms. Sanda, given her community engagements and grassroots level engagement, I would like to ask her, what are some of the effective strategies in your impact campaign to drive policy change among the community during that you might have faced during your community engagement, or what are the effective strategies that either you have implemented or you have seen while during your expedition? Could you highlight on that, Ms. Sanda?
I am based in Yangon, but I have worked in different coastal communities. And the thing I have learned that is the most important is every community is different. And if you're going to work in any communities, you can't come in with your cookie cutter solution. You have to listen to their problems. You have to understand the context they're in, their cultural, social nuances, and their needs. And you really have to sort of learn to empathize before you could actually work with them to find solutions. I think that is my biggest lesson, and the things I see a lot of people not quite figuring out how to adapt. And in terms of translating that to policy, I think at the moment in Myanmar, we haven't really dealt with any policy management issues. I think I've mostly just worked with community engagement, just trying to understand everything that is going on. And like we have mentioned earlier, there is very little understanding of what's going on, very little research. So even if we can't implement any policy changes or implement any conservation management, I think it's very important to understand where the communities are coming from, what they're going through, because at the end of the day, you are protecting the ocean you have to protect the communities that live there.
So, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for highlighting that there is a huge gap in the conservation with respect to the areas that you work. And also, one thing is rightly pointed that everything that we do to conserve for the marine ecosystem, it is for the betterment of the whole biosphere itself. And human community is one of the important aspects of that. You cannot subtract that area and do budget every other thing, and then raise your hand to the people who live there and who are the, if I can say, who are the children of the sea, to point out. So, Akansha, on a similar note, since you are a filmmaker and you know the Indian coast very well from your travel and your experience, could you share some of your experiences that you have seen in the Bay of Bengal region, and that where you have seen an intersection between the marine conservation efforts and the local community?
Am I audible? Am I audible okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, Akansha, we can hear
Okay,
you.
okay, great. I was just checking. So I have realized that the community, the fishing community, and anybody who is actively involved with nature, who has been, working with nature or natural environments, they are very emotionally attached in general. So you don't need to kind of tell them anything about conservation. Most times when we go into these spaces, they jokingly tell us, why are you coming from the city and telling me what to do? So I have seen the communities have that sort of sensitivity and emotional attachment, like I mentioned. So when you work with them, you can see that they understand seasonality, they understand bycatch, they understand mammals. At least in my experience and the geographies that I have worked with, the fishing communities have been very open to actually working towards initiatives that would help the species that are not their primary catch. Their only problem is that don't come for our livelihood, don't don't tell us to make changes for an already depleting money source that we have. I mean, there is overfishing, there are different aspects to it. It's far more complicated than it just being black and white. But with the communities, I have personally experienced that they are very open to these changes, to collaborative efforts, to sharing their experiences, to giving us advice and suggesting on how we can conserve those species better. Because I've also learned that when we work with policy, when we work on these projects, we tend to choose one side. We tend to choose either we tend to go to the extreme end of conservation or being a very people-centric project, but all stakeholders should be involved for making long-term change and long-term impact, like it's already been mentioned. And also, these communities have more access to those ecosystems and species than we ever would. So obviously they know better than us to some extent, right? We would have knowledge from what we studied, from our research, from papers, from what other people have said, but they have lived experience. So yeah, I have seen that sort of collaboration. We have different projects for bycatch. We have different projects where different states have some sort of reward for rescuing animals, for rescuing them. Like if you have a whale shark in your catch and if you let it go, then you get some sort of incentive. So there are those projects, but sometimes even before these incentives existed, or in the states where they don't exist, these practices are relatively famous, and the community does that by themselves. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Akansha. That was great input from your side. And also one more thing I could catch is that you mentioned at the end, you mentioned there are incentives given to the fishermen who capture whale sharks or whatever endangered species, and so is there a gap? So I feel the officials are definitely sitting on the shore, right? So is there a purposeful use of the policy to earn, so that on a, like, they will maluse the practice of the policy, that they'll purposely catch the shark and then, produce it to the officials to get the incentive. So, are there certain instances that you have come across where the policies are being misused because the policy makers didn't understand the real issue?
Yeah, of course. Like you mentioned, I mean, sharks and all are, again, you're not supposed to consume them, but they are a part of the target species, at least the ones that are not protected in many parts of India and just in this geographic region. But there are cases where fishing communities have dragged those species all the way to the coast, especially on days when their catch is bad. I mean, you can't go and actually hunt those or, harvest those particular protected species. I mean, you never know because we don't actually know what happens at sea. But if they have any species, they would generally have to drag it all the way to show these people, these officers or officials who are giving these incentives. So it kind of gets lost, and there is that misuse of, if I don't have money, this becomes another source for me to make money, with the whole fish meal issue also, which is a whole different topic, which I don't want to get into the details of. But with turtles, especially, whale shark is still a little difficult to drag with Persian boats and trawlers. Hopefully they don't do it. I mean, they do sometimes, it depends, and it's a shark at the end of the day, so shark finning happens. But with turtles, it's relatively easier for the smaller boats to just carry them and show that, and they tend to take videos because they have to kind of document which vessel it was and who was there and who did the rescue for those incentives. But now they're kind of changing the rules a little bit, at least in South Maharashtra, where they're saying in a particular month you can only get these many rewards. You can't just be the only person who keeps getting rescues, so-called rescues rather, because we don't even know if those are real rescues. Rescues and releases. So those little bit changes are happening. They're learning from their mistakes in a way, but it is still like you can understand that they've not spoken to somebody who works with fishers. I mean, not consulted them to the extent.
This is one of the major challenges that we always see, right? Policymakers don't actually interact with the local communities to really understand the challenge. So here in our office also, whenever we have these discussions, we always say that, policies cannot be made in AC room. You have to step out, you have to interact with people to understand what exactly is needed. So hopefully this discussion will pave some reach to some of the officials, and then, definitely some changes will be made. Coming back to Professor Jayakodi, whom we lost due to a technical glitch. Ma'am, you were explaining that, there are some positive changes that is being observed in the Bay of Bengal region, especially with banning of single-use plastic, and we are seeing that those pollutions are reducing. But drawing the same line on what Akansha was saying, that we have been pouring billions of dollars in this region to, facilitate trade, to facilitate security and everything. But are we really understanding who are the key stakeholders? And don't you feel that that is the real area that we need to invest? So what are the challenges in that aspect? Since you have worked with all these agencies, could you give some insight from your experience?
Thank you. I'm really sorry I got cut off earlier. In fact, Vishnu, I want to mention, don't know whether you heard me clearly. What I mentioned was, yes, there are a lot of positive changes, but that doesn't mean like things like pollution are getting to a positive side. At least we are coming up with some positive solutions, and yet the outcomes of this is yet to be seen. So coming to stakeholders, Vishnu, I think already we heard about a lot of stakeholders in this discussion itself. What's very important is now that the Indian Ocean and also the Bay of Bengal is attracting a multitude of stakeholders. It's not just the people that is living here anymore. It's also the investors. It come in many industries, whether it is shipping, and also trade and investment, but also stakeholders that are turning towards the Indian Ocean because of the interests on carbon interests. So we have to understand that the stakeholder portfolio is vast changing. Now, what is very important to work out would be, are we reaching to the right stakeholders in order to make sure that they are given the right knowledge to deal with Indian Ocean. For an example, if we go to the very most important level, that's the communities. What is very, very important, I think, is to understand that communities have already started feeling the brunt of losing the natural capital in the Indian Ocean. And also they are, as a result of that, they are also losing their livelihoods, their income, and also the social status. So having known that, what is very important is perhaps to work with the communities and to make sure that as a stakeholder that they understand that these changes are not just natural, but it's also anthropogenic, human-made, so that everyone has been playing a role. And how do we understand our role and make a minimal footprint in that sort of negative impact, just like what Akansha was talking in terms of sharks and all that. But then you go to the next level, we invest a lot on children, which is really good. We invest a lot on tertiary education, and we talk a lot about it, which is also really good. We try to go into the next level and we talk about policymakers, which is very important. But what is so important, or what is really rather lacking in here, is to understand that there is that other set of stakeholders that really have an interest in the Indian Ocean and the Bay of Bengal, and how do we reach them? How do we understand them? And how do we know what are the motives of them? And then how do you make sure that you make them understand, okay, you are coming to a region that is already volatile in many ways, so that your footprint in this system got to be minimal. I think that's where the dialogue breaks. And I think in terms of stakeholders, and that is where we need to go. Because I see that in the region, we spend a lot in working out the stakeholders and trying to connect them. But at the same time, as you ask this question, I must also mention to you, we tend to reach to these stakeholders in their own silos, rather than taking them out of the silos, putting them in the reality where, okay, in this particular polygon of a land, you have a say, and this person also have a say, and this particular agency also have a say. Now, how do you come to win-win solutions? How do you tolerate each other? And through that process, how do you bring in the sustainability? I think that's where we've been lacking, Jishnu. I think this is the reason why in Bay of Bengal, that many things have not been happening the way that we really want. I can quote you ample examples for this. For an example, let's take the simple
I think we lost her again due to some technical errors. So I'll just continue the conversation that Jayakuri was mentioning, and then we'll take her back with the examples that she was citing. So, Admiral Awal, as Jayakuri ma'am was saying that, these are the areas that we want to work together with the international corporation and how we can bring together. How do you see how do you believe countries with different national and international interests, come together to promote sustainable practices? And whenever the countries gather, we all talk about trade, we all talk about defense deals, trade deals, free trade deals between one and the other countries. So how much emphasis is given on the international community to take a decision on conservation strategy and budget them accordingly. So could you please shed from your experience?
Thank you. In the context of conservation efforts, to start with, we can say in the Bay of Bengal area, the largest of the initiative that we have is the Bay of Bengal, large the maritime ecosystem project. It's under the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. So that's the largest initiative that taken for a conservation effort in the Bay of Bengal area. Now, here as they have chalked out the various points, there are some, the problem they have also identified. Like the first problem is that, the differences in the legal systems and procedure of the countries involved. Then the approach towards the exploitation as a whole. Then you have how to synergize these all this system together. Now, if I can. If you talk about this, the Bay of Bengal, the maritime ecosystem, that project, it's a huge area, 6.2 million square kilometer. Now, it is, having a population, coastal population of 450 million, almost 500 million people are living here. Now, you see the, scale of the difficulties that the countries have. Now, as I said, that the FAO has taken this initiative, the Bay of Bengal large maritime ecosystem. There are 64 ecosystems in the world, and it is one of the largest. Now, they have what they have carried out is a transboundary diagnosis analysis, a TDA, and strategic action program. There, they have identified the transboundary concerns and causes is the overexploitation of the marine living resources, then the degradation of the critical habitats, and the pollution and water quality. So these are the areas of concern. Now, given that the SAP will help the this countries of the region. There are 8 countries in this system. Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, then your Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, all together. Now, they will help safeguard and maintain the ecosystem services in the Bay of Bengal large maritime area, which is worth $240 billion over the next 25 years. Now, the barriers which have been identified, as I mentioned earlier, is the institutional, legal, and administrative barriers, then socioeconomic barriers, where improving the stakeholder awareness and the capacity building, the gender equity, reducing vulnerability of the livelihood, and the reversing the lack of integration in the climate change. That's a major issue. That how do you reverse to enhance the resilience of the fisheries communities, fisheries, critical habitats, and the the people's livelihood as a whole. Now, the project will be implemented through 5 components. Is the sustainable management of fisheries, then restoration and construction of the coastal maritime habitats, management of coastal and marine pollution to improve the ecosystem, then improve livelihood and enhancement of the resilience in the large maritime ecosystem. So, given this situation, you see the requirement of funding that will be UN and the countries involved. So you can understand the funding is already in short supply for very crucial issues. Then these are the new issues that we are confronting, and they're the political decision makers. They have to, if they don't prioritize, that the keynote speaker has mentioned, if they don't prioritize this, large maritime system sustainability, then it's very difficult to do that. And with that coming that, much of the initiative lies with the national authorities to implement this in their areas of jurisdiction. Because much is dependent up to the EEZ of the country, and beyond EEZ, it is in fact, 66% lies within the EEZ of the countries. Out of the 6.2 million square kilometer, 66% is lying within the EEZ. That is the national responsibility, and 34% is the high sea. That will come the international effort. So the regionally, these Bay of Bengal, large maritime ecosystem project, that needs funding, that needs the collaboration, that needs a huge amount of expertise and commitment to make it successful. And there, I think individually, some of the countries have just started. Bangladesh, we are making our effort, but again, the fund is an issue. Same is the case with the other countries. But the huge national responsibility, as I said, the 66% is within your national jurisdiction, and then 34% is beyond that in the high seas. So this is the scenario, and we need funding. We need this, Bay of Bengal large maritime ecosystem project under FAO to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Admiral Awal. That was good input from your side. And one more thing I would like to add on what Dr. Awal was saying, and also taking points from Mr. Boyer in his keynote address. So we have to mobilize, security, trade, national protection, everything is something that every country is doing. And it is also necessary. It's not that people should, the countries and the authorities should not do that. But I think it is high time that, we should also look up to what our planet is going through. Trade will only happen if there are things to trade. So if there are no resources and it goes in this fast depleting format, and the ecosystem gets disturbed like this due to climate change, due to international activities, whatever given reason, every country will have their own reason of how their resources have been exploited without sustainability. I think it's high time that, whenever decision makers come together, be it BIMSTEC, be it ASEAN, be it AUKUS, whatever circles people sit in, this is an area that they should really look upon and work on, because there are many things on paper, but when people like you and Akansha and Ms. Thanda talk about, there is nothing much available on the activity side of it. So continuing the discussion, as Dr. Boyer also mentioned in his keynote address, that we need to really push these initiatives in classrooms, in schools, and we should understand, we should make the young generation, the coming generation, understand that, the ocean is very integral part of it. Even the people who are not living on the coastline, how these oceans need to be protected and how they are benefiting from the ocean. So I'm glad that FNF has come up with a blue curricula that actually emphasizes on these aspects for the young kids. So it's a great initiative by FNF. And also highlighting on the same line, I would like to draw attention to Ms. Tanda, who work in ocean literacy programs, and she has something interesting to contribute in this area. So I would like Ms. Tanda to give a brief on the activities that she does on ocean literacy awareness program. Ms. Tanda, over to you.
Hi. Yes, we created a series of comic books to basically engage with the youth and the children in the coastal communities and everywhere else. So my approach was to really just sort of let people understand what's going on in the water in the context of the country. Because in my engagement and interactions with a lot of the children, I noticed they would say things like, oh, I've seen whale sharks in Indonesia. I saw, manta rays in Maldives in the videos. And none of them have connected the dots that we have them in our ocean as well. And that there are people working to conserve these animals in their own backyard. And I think for me, that was really to highlight the marine animals that exist in our coastline, and to sort of like allow the kids to connect the dots and to actually really learn about the fun facts. Sometimes I think it's more important for people to care about the animals before you force them to care about conservation of the animals. So that was the approach. Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to Professor Jayakody, also I have a similar question that Dr. Klein have asked. So we are planning to conclude this session. So in the end, I would like, through the conclusion, we would like to know from Professor Jayakody, how important is the interdisciplinary approach, and also highlighting a point that Dr. Klein is asking, which influence have regional organizations like BIMSTEC for the maritime protection in the BOB region? So how can this interdisciplinary network come together?
Right. Jishnu, I'll keep my video turned off because I'm in a very much a hurricane situation. So therefore, I would speak without the video. Sorry about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
However, if you can repeat the question again, because the connection is not very good, I will be able to answer.
So, ma'am, in the line of the conversation that we are having, so I wanted to know that how important is an interdisciplinary approach, integrating biology, policy, and community engagement in addressing the ecological issues, and how organizations like BIMSTEC play a role here.
It's the only way for us to move forward, not just in Bay of Bengal, but anywhere. When you think about managing natural capital, that's all because if you have to take the right decision, a right decision depends on few key factors. Number one, it should be scientifically sound. And that's where the scientists and the biologists, everyone comes. A scientific and also a good decision should look into people's need and also make sure that a decision is not going to have an undue impact on communities and stakeholders. And that's where the lawyers, the policymakers, economists, socialists, socioeconomists all come in. And then you also have the other side, which we really talk about, the spiritual side. How does all this affect the well-being of the people? And that's something we've been hardly looking into. So interdisciplinary way is the way for us to move forward. So it's not just thinking of connecting the natural capital with money and then thinking about, right, how do we make these two ends meet? It's about thinking about sustainability and also ensuring that the decisions that we take are justifiable, not just to the current generation, but also for the future generations. Because, and by doing that only, I think we can move forward. Now, why interdisciplinary approaches? Like, for an example, if you take Bay of Bengal, we've been talking about integrated coastal resource management for a long time. Yet integrated coastal approach has not been a very popular one, basically because it's been focusing mostly on fisheries. And then we have come to the point of ecosystem approach to fisheries management. And perhaps the economists and the finances might be think, okay, that's ecological approach. What about the monetary side of it? So this is why the integrated management is going to be quite important. How do we do this? How do we do this is simply by understanding that we are now in a crisis. We already talk about triple planetary crisis, and we already have tasted the triple planetary crisis in the Indian Ocean itself. Now, unless we join forces together, and unless we understand business as usual will not be the model that will help us to change the way we go forward, I don't think we can talk about sustainability and prosperity in the Bay of Bengal as well as in Indian Ocean. So integrated approaches needs to be broadcasted more and more, and we must try and create forums to bring in integrated approaches more and more. But also, very importantly, Vishnu, one thing that is lacking is the indicators. What indicators have we set in to understand whether the integrated approaches are in place, whether there is the expected outcomes achieved, whether the targets are in the right direction? So I think moving towards integrated approaches requires a paradigm shift in the way we manage not just the natural capital, but also in our management models. Thank you, Jishnu.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for rightly summing up, the whole, I mean, you have given us the umbrella cover to the discussion that we had. And thank you for touching upon all the aspects and how we can internationally as a community seeing, Bay of Bengal as a sentient being, we can say it like that. We should look forward to take care of the entire region, entire ecosystem as a sentient being, and considering all the policies and keeping aside the international issues that countries may have, or they possess political issues, we should keep aside when it comes to the overall conservation, because the resources in ocean are mobile. When you talk about fishes or other organisms that people thrive on, these organisms are always mobile and they move kilometers. So their protection and their conservation, being the policymakers or be it politicians, should take care of it. So thank you so much for highlighting all these points. I thank all the panelists. We have few questions. Quickly moving to a few of the important questions that that I have received. So just addressing one question that Mr. Najmul Hussain has asked. Very poor. I'll read out the question. Very poor residing in the coastal areas have to make the ends meet. They may have high propensity to overuse the harvest species indiscriminately. How do you contain or discourage such practices? So quickly to answer Mr. Najmul's question, I feel what Akansha rightly pointed out, interacting with the key stakeholders or the people who are in the coastal cities, like, there are certain policies that can be misused, like how rightly pointed out by Akansha that fishermen might misuse to meet their end. I mean, it's not their fault. There are certain policies that also, or there are certain conditions that doesn't allow them to earn as much as to meet the end. Then they have to, go for the extreme ends to misuse the policies and find loopholes in the laws. So to mitigate that, I feel ground level interventions by the authorities of the respective areas can help the issues. I feel someone is raising the hand. Quickly, if you can ask the question, you can write on the chat box. I'll read it out. So
No, I just want to add something to that. Yeah.
Sure, please.
Just wanted to add something to that
Sure, please,
question, Jishnu. To meet the ends meet, do we really always need to kill in order to survive? Now, these are the models that we need to take to our communities. For an example, if you go to Caribbean that used to harvest sharks, now the sharks are being kept in as a part of tourism. So a living shark is much more important than a dead shark. So it's up to us to also not just to preach, but also to introduce them viable alternative economic models that will help them to earn their bread, but also to make sure that the natural capital is taken care of. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I feel, I mean, ma'am rightly mentioned the takeaway is that a living shark is much more better than a dead shark. So I feel these humanitarian values are taken by all our listeners here, and they always look up to conservation, not just marine, also be kind to animals wherever you see them, and try to protect them, in your nearby areas or wherever you go for tourism and all that. Yeah, and Akansha also comments that promoting seasonality and better subsidies are a good option. However, rightly said, Akansha, that is something that the authorities should look up to. Thank you for a good engaging. We are exceeding the time, so I will not take much time now. It was a great learning for me, and it was a good journey for me to understand the recent activities. What are the countries doing? What are the gaps that in the Bay of Bengal area that is out there and people are not aware of? I hope the participants who are listening to the engaging interactive session have some great takeaways, and also they can impart certain values in their life in order to conserve the ocean that we have. So concluding the session, I would like to invite Dr. Klein. Dr. Klein is the regional head of FNF South Asia Regional Office. So Dr. Klein, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this excellent discussion. One of the best I experienced in the last years here in the foundation. Thank you very much, Benno Böhr, Dr. Benno Böhr, Chief of Natural Science Unit at the UNESCO here in South Asia and India, Honorable Member of Parliament Al-Halak, not to forget dear Dr. Danyoraj, our very good friend and everlasting supporter of CPBR, together with Jishnu for this excellent moderation. Thanks, Rear Admiral from Bangladesh, and Professor Jayakodi from Sri Lanka, and Mrs. Tiwari from India, and not to forget dear Mrs. Tanda, all the way from Myanmar. It was really a great discussion, and I think the most important thing in finding good solutions is always to bring important people who have a certain influence together from specific, well-defined regional circles. And that is something what we as a humble political foundation what we must do. Let me just emphasize two groups again, which I find in the whole circle extremely important. Number one is education sector, as several times mentioned. Here, specifically teachers and also parents, which are the role models, the positive inspirers of our kids and the students. And number two, beyond, let's say, an informed public, critical media, responsible entrepreneurs, and functioning state administration that applies and enforces the existing regulations, frameworks, and laws, I find the group of the regional leaders, the local politicians, and the local people who are responsible for the communities. These are the groups where we really have to work and where we should be present, and where we could start a lot of our initiatives. And I find that also one of the guiding principles for Friedrich Naumann Foundation's work here in South Asia. Let me again say, Friedrich Naumann Foundation here is a facilitator for different kinds of discussions based on the CPBR organized Bay of Bengal conferences. We thought that our small little contribution, and our dear moderator has mentioned that, is our concrete product, a blue curriculum for schools around the Bay of Bengal, but also in the countries in the Himalayas and in the more landlocked countries, because we had very good discussions and also impulses from their side that especially kids, students, teachers from the more land-orientated areas are also extremely interested in maritime issues and environmental protection there. Again, distinguished panelists, thanks for this interdisciplinary and interregional discussion. I would be very happy to have you on board in our upcoming events. We will definitely keep you informed. Let me please give me the opportunity to thank again dear Benno from UNESCO. Great to have you as a great supporter and a friend. Dear colleagues from CPPR, especially Dr. Danuraj and our moderator, you were the inspirers of this webinar tonight. Thank you very much to Mr. Mohanad Al-Halak from German Bundestag. Not forget our friends from the Brandenburg and Berlin office in Germany. I know that very many people use the opportunity because they are interested in these concrete initiatives in South Asia, and they take away some bits of lessons back to Europe and to Germany. Thanks, Mrs. Cheeks, and especially Mr. Meffert from our own organization, and not to forget dear Mrs. Hasija. And please allow me to stress and emphasize particularly Tenzin Paljor and Manjari Mishra. You were always the motors of many of our initiatives. Please let me here officially say thank you to you. You are, as a stepping stone, has used the organization, Friedrich Naumann Foundation. We are very happy that you did that for several years, but now you take the initiative for your future. positive way. We wish you all the best for your future endeavors. Thank you very much for your task so far. Again, thanks, Mr. Schlesinger from Bonn University for the technical help. And again, thank you very much for dear panelists for your great contributions. I would again wish you, dear participants and dear audience, all the best. Stay tuned. And if you like and if you are interested in our future projects, please do not hesitate to check these initiatives and others on social media. Thanks a lot to you all. Best wishes, especially to the areas and countries around the Bay of Bengal. Thanks a lot and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
It was a very useful webinar. Many thanks to everybody. Bye.